Welcome to the Ozone. Josh Hummer alongside Greg Spencer, Madison Huffling from Deer Creek High School. Beautiful Wednesday here at Qdoba off of the Northwest Expressway in Rockwell. Want to get your thoughts. Big game, obviously, for you guys this week at Deer Creek. Deer Creek traveling to Guthrie, battle of unbeatens. Some of your thoughts heading in.
I just think that it's going to be a matter of what the defenses can do to intimidate the opposing offense. Of course, Deer Creek's defense is phenomenal at stopping the run game, and Guthrie loves to run the football, and Guthrie's great at defending the passing game, and Deer Creek loves to throw. So I think it's really going to be a matter of, can Deer Creek run and can Guthrie throw? And then also with the positions that Deer Creek has put themselves in as far as scoring so far this season, their first string has only played one full game, and that being Carl Albert. So I think it's going to also be a matter of endurance for Deer Creek.
And when you look at Deer Creek, I think the thing that impresses me the most is just the potency offensively. You look at Joel Blumenthal, of course, he gets a lot of attention, but in the backfield, Brennan Miyake and Jared Rayburn and a bunch of other guys there. Very excited for that one. I think that you hit it right on the nail there. It's going to be, can they run the football for Guthrie, and will Deer Creek be able to be as effective as they have been in the passing game?
Yeah, and you guys have seen them a lot more than I have this year, but obviously Deer Creek has really only been tested once so far this season with a home game, 21-7 over Carl Albert. So this time going on the road against the first tough team, will they be able to handle that? Remains to be seen. We'll give our picks later in the show.
Have you seen an excitement around the school building up this week? Obviously, this was kind of the season with a lot of expectations, a chance to maybe take this district, make it to the playoffs. Is there a sense of that excitement as you walk around the halls this week?
There definitely is. They're so ready, and they've prepared themselves as well as they think they need to be prepared. And, it was tough the last 2 years playing Guthrie, especially 2 years ago when Deer Creek was up at the Rock, and that was pretty embarrassing for Deer Creek. So we'll see if they can redeem themselves this year.
Yeah, it will definitely be interesting to see, and obviously a very pivotal game for the Antlers, and a chance to show what could maybe happen later on in the postseason.
Right. I do think, though, that McGinnis has a really good shot at taking the district. They played Deer Creek and Guthrie at home. You look at statistics, and they're all right there with each other. And, McGinnis has got such a stellar offense. Their offensive line is incredible. I really think that McGinnis has got a good shot to win the district.
Yeah, good point by you not to leave out McGinnis, another very, very good football team in that district.
And McGinnis, they will play November 2nd, and that game is at Bishop McGinnis, so that will definitely loom large as well. Not to just talk only about high school football, you watch a lot of sports as well. You're heading to Northwestern next year, which is very exciting. Tell us a little bit about your thoughts on this past weekend in college football, particularly the OU-Texas game.
The OU-Texas game, or scrimmage as I like to refer to it, it wasn't much of a game. It's kind of disappointing to me, Landry Jones being, having seniority on that football team, and he can't really be trusted in the red zone, so it's probably a little demoralizing bringing Blake Bell in when they're about to score, but it was a fun game to watch, for sure.
Well, and I wouldn't necessarily classify it as a trust issue as much as it is a belief that Blake Bell is so good in those particular situations, a guy that you saw break tackles and really, really very special in the Cotton Bowl.
Yeah, there's definitely, multiple sides of ways that you can look at it. There, up until recently, there was some questions. Some people were in the camp of saying that they should just scrap the Belldozer and just trust Landry, but I was not in that camp. And
no,
I
think
that what they're doing is best suiting the team, and to get him out on the field is really, it's something that you just can't stop. I mean, you have to let Blake Bell play in those situations.
All right, well, let's go ahead before we end the segment here. A pick, big game this week for you guys. Deer Creek, Guthrie, what do you got? Give me a winner.
I'm not sure we can put her on the spot for that.
Ooh.
She's got to go to school tomorrow.
All right, I'll tell you this. Yeah. I'm giving it a 4-point spread, but I'm not saying who's winning or who's losing. I'm just going to leave it at a 4-point spread.
That's respectful. I respect that.
Okay, very, very nice. Thank you, Madison, for joining us here. We'll be right back here on the Ozone off of Northwest Expressway in Rockwell.
Food isn't just fuel for the body. It's bigger than that. When food is truly enjoyed, it can take you back to familiar places or open new doors to the world. It's what takes food from simply ingredients on a plate to a rich experience that can be shared by all. That's why we make food for people who love food. For us, food is a passion. It's the reason we comb the regions of Mexico for new, innovative flavors. It's why we source the best tasting and freshest ingredients. At Qdoba, we believe love isn't just the most important ingredient in our food, we think it's the most important ingredient in life.
Welcome back to the O-Zone. We are live from Qdoba here at Northwest Expressway in Rockwell. I'm Greg Spencer along with Josh Elbert. Joining us now, as always, Bob Przybylo from ESPN Sooner Nation. Bob, how's it going?
It's going great. How's everything going with you guys?
Excellent, excellent. Just got back, obviously, from the trip to the Cotton Bowl, which, to be a Sooner beat writer, was probably a little bit more fun, you would think, than being a Texas beat writer this past weekend.
Yeah, I was a little disappointed we didn't have a show last week, but then I kind of wasn't, because I'm the guy that said Texas 30-26.
Yeah, right. I did notice that you fessed up to that on Twitter.
So, I just thought that Jonathan Gray was going to have an amazing game and breakout performance for Texas. It just did not happen.
Well, literally nobody for Texas had any kind of quality game on either side of the ball.
Well, and instead what happened was we saw the Sooner defense, I think, start to kind of gain confidence in what they're doing with Mike. We've talked so much in the past weeks about how Mike Stoops has simplified things defensively, but we're starting to really see the results of that. I mean, 2 first downs in the first half for Texas, that doesn't happen at the Cotton Bowl, and I think a big tribute to what everybody on the Sooner defense was doing defensively.
Yeah, we rewind a couple weeks to where we were the last time we met with Bob, and there was a lot of questions looming. They were coming off the loss to Kansas State.
Yeah.
They were 6-4 in their last 10 overall games, and I believe 3-4 in the last 7 Big 12 games. So there was cause for concern. But now as we look on, we kind of see what how good Kansas State is, and we can point to some problems. But really, what I look at in these 2 weeks with the Texas Tech game and now the Texas game is Josh Heupel and Landry Jones must have spent a lot of time in the Switzer Center post-practice analyzing film and finding ways to make this team better, because as good as the defense is, the defense was pretty good against Kansas State. They just faltered down the fourth quarter. The thing that's impressed me is just how much this offense has improved.
Well, and I think that's exactly right. Part of that, though, is so many young wide receivers to begin this year. I mean, obviously, you have your Kinney Stills, but, you look at guys like Shepard, McTwire on down the board, Deron Neal, guys that, in now Jalen Saunders into the mix. That was a nice surprise for the Sooners to get that going in. And Justin Brown, I mean, a guy that obviously a veteran wide receiver out of Penn State, but a guy that, hadn't, I mean, it probably wasn't the toughest transition for him to come into the Sooner offense. The coaching staff never indicated that it was, but you'd have to think that for him and Landry specifically, just to get on the same page, a little bit of a learning process.
Yeah, we came into this season wondering about the depth at the position, and now you got Landry saying that the depth has never been better at the spot. You're almost wondering, can Jazz Reynolds even come back at this point, or is it better for him to just sit out the
Is it maybe a distraction?
Season? Yeah, I mean, they're loaded, and we know with Jalen, averaged more than 20 yards per catch last season for Fresno State, and he showed signs. I mean, he was only with the team for 3 days, being eligible, and he already made an impact there in the third quarter. So there's a lot of reasons to be optimistic right now.
Guys, how about Trey Millard's play? The longest pass play for Oklahoma in Cotton Bowl history, leaping over a defender while simultaneously stiff-arming and trucking someone at the same time. That was a heck of a play.
Well, people have been clamoring to see more Trey Millard, and we finally got it.
It's Trey and Damian both.
And I give a lot of credit to Dom Whaley, because it could have been this transition could have been tough. There could have been some inner problems with Damian taking the spot. He seems like he's handled it with a lot of class, and obviously Damian is a special talent like we all thought he was.
Well, and I think another thing is you look at the bond between Landry and Blake Bell, and you see a similar connection there with a guy that's now, when you get into what Coach Hype likes to refer to as the tight zone, comfortable bringing Blake Bell, and obviously your stats don't look the same as far as passing touchdowns and things of that nature, but you understand that you're getting points on the board, and that's what's important for the Sooners.
Exactly, and Jones even admitted that as a competitor, he wants to be out there, but he's doing what's best for the team. It's not going to help him win the Heisman, but it might get OU back into the championship race.
Well, and you mentioned the Heisman. Really, at this point, when you lose a game that early to Kansas State and you have the kind of game that Landry had, you just don't worry about awards anymore. I think that's one of the things that this offensive staff and these players have realized. As one of the main focuses that I had in my struggles with pointing at Landry in that offense was the inability to spread the ball around. And when I watched that Kansas State game and I watched the mistakes that were made, I didn't see anybody else really at fault except for Landry Jones and Josh Heupel maybe not getting some guys involved, and they've made those adjustments.
Well, and I think some of that gets overblown a little bit, honestly, Greg, because people forget coming into the season, we're talking about 100-plus starts on that offensive line. You lose 2 guys in the preseason, and boom, now you're down to 40 into the casual viewer.
But that wasn't the issue.
Well,
the offensive line has not been the issue.
It was also an issue in that game, I would argue.
Nope.
I really disagree.
I would definitely.
Landry went in the press conference and said this was on me, and I really felt he believed that.
Well, and he did. But that's his job as a leader. You didn't see Kinney Stills or any of those other guys echoing that was an entirely accurate statement. You didn't see Jay Norvell, Josh Heupel.
Yeah, they're not going to throw their teammate under the bus. I mean, that's a fact. I mean, but when you like I said, 2 weeks ago, I had been a Landry Jones on his bandwagon. I had been a supporter for 2.5, 3 years. But after that game, I looked at the stats and I did that research, and I thought about the mistakes that he'd made in those key moments, and I said he's not learning to spread the ball around. Now, whether that was all his fault or Josh Heupel being a young offensive coordinator and not relying on those key certain guys, but since then I cannot give it up to him enough. He's putting them in the right spots, and Landry's making the right decision.
And they went away from the run in that football game.
Yeah, there was a lot of things wrong in that Kansas State attack.
They didn't quite know what they had, I don't think, in Damian Williams at that point.
And Millard supposedly only played 11 snaps. I've not gone back and watched that, but I've heard that from multiple sources that he played 11 snaps, and that's just mind-boggling to me. I'm
not trying to take anything away from Kansas State here, but I had the opportunity to go back and watch that football game actually 2 days ago and honestly, Oklahoma should have won that football game. Regardless of everything we've said about Landry, everything we've said about the offensive line, you don't fumble the football there with Blake Bell at the 1-yard line. And Landry had the fumble that 17 points off turnovers for K-State.
Yeah, that's the game, the turnover battle.
And we've seen that in the last 2 games where OU has forced 3 turnovers in back-to-back games. It gives that team the lift.
With just the one interception in the 2 games.
Absolutely. Which, mind you, was a very troubling pick 6. But when you play that well, the rest of the phases you kind of let one of those slip.
But, not to focus entirely on Landry Jones and the offense, but you got to give them credit. They have made the adjustments necessary, and they can be pretty good, and they can have a pretty successful season, the type of season that we all thought they could have if that continues. But to focus a little bit on that defense, the defense to me, Bob, is what I think is going to be a constant.
I had no idea the secondary was going to be as good as it is. And I think right now the best player, maybe in the Big 12 on defense, is Aaron Coleman. Yeah. You can't tell me there's someone playing better than him
he's been outstanding.
Slick. Absolutely. Yeah, no, he's outstanding. But all the guys back there, you look at a guy like Javon Harris in the development that he's made, a guy that was, just under fire from Sooner fans. If Landry got all sorts of criticism, but another one of those names that you heard tossed around in Sooner circles every day was Javon Harris, a guy on blast. And you look at what he's been able to do, and obviously Aaron and DeMontre and Tony Jefferson as well. It's just been phenomenal on the back end of that defense. But up front, there's I admittedly will come out and say that I was a guy saying that maybe this defensive line's just not very good. And you know what? I've been nothing but proven absolutely wrong on that account.
Yeah, they use that motivation. You weren't the only one. Coach Switzer said there just wasn't the talent.
Yeah, everybody was questioning recruiting. And, sometimes in college football, when you only play once a week, we tend to overreact from one week to the next.
And a guy like Casey Walker, getting him back.
You don't agree with that?
Of course we do.
Well, let's talk a little bit about Sooner recruiting here. There's been some big offers delved out of late that a lot of people maybe in the Sooner camp a little worried about the 2013 recruiting class, but now some offers coming out. Who are some guys that caught your eye and in basketball as well?
this last weekend was a great opportunity for OU to get rid of that bitter taste from Kansas State. You know, they didn't get any commitments because of the Texas victory, but pushed them out in front when it comes to some of those 2014 kids in Texas. And when you look at this year's class, OU is right there with so many kids. We're talking like 10 to 15 to 20 kids where OU's in their top 3. No idea if they're in the lead, but they're definitely there. And they made a recent offer to a in-state kid at Booker T, Dominique Alexander, who's committed to Arkansas. Now, he seems like he's going to fit in at outside linebacker, kind of undersized a little bit, but that's because he thought he would be playing safety forever. Now, if he moves this spot, he says he can carry about 220 pounds. He's someone I've been very impressed with while watching during the spring and during the fall. And I'm hoping to get a chance to see him next week against Tulsa Union. So.
Another guy I know you wrote about this week, Bob, was a commit to UCLA out of California, Sean Dowling. Talk a little bit about him.
Yeah, he's a three-star tackle that committed to the Bruins in April, back when he didn't have that many offers. And then during the spring, he started to blow up. He improved his footwork. He started to gain some weight. More schools started to come in. The Sooners were one of them. He's developed a great relationship with Bruce Kittle. He actually called Kittle late last night, woke him up. Because I guess for Dowling, his team had a late Tuesday night practice, so he got out of practice about 9 o'clock, which is 11 o'clock here. So he gives Kittle a call, ends up waking him up. He calls me after calling Kittle, hey, I'm a single guy. You're not waking me up. I'm still up at 11:30 at night. But he's very excited about this trip. He wants to get to know the campus, the atmosphere, wants to experience the game day. And I wouldn't expect him to flip his commitment.
I really wish he would have postponed that visit till next Saturday.
Well, it seems like almost every recruit is coming in next Saturday. Yeah. But when you have a game like this and there aren't that many people coming in, you get that more one-on-one time.
That's a good point.
He's really going to get a lot of attention from Coach Kittle and from Coach Stoops. And that sometimes makes even more of a difference than seeing like a 45-42 instant classic.
Let's take a moment here and kind of look forward. Oklahoma KU this weekend, 35-point line in favor of the Sooners. Any chance that Oklahoma will cover that?
There's definitely a chance. I think you're in for a big letdown.
Yeah,
but I don't think you're going to notice it though. I just don't think KU is going to be a team that poses any problems, that even if OU isn't playing at their best, they still can't win by 20, 30 points, which is exactly what we saw last year at KU, where the Sooners didn't play
very
their
bad
best.
First half.
Yeah.
Up there in Lawrence.
If they do cover, I think it's a good sign of maturity of this team and the maturation process going into next week.
And I think if they don't, I'll be getting a phone call from my brother Danny explaining that the Sooners are no longer a national title favorite, and in fact they aren't as good as he thought. So typical OU syndrome if the Sooners don't play very, very well this weekend. But I think jokes aside, guys, I think there is a good chance that Oklahoma, it's going to be tough for them to come out and put together the type of energy and performance they had against Texas a week ago. They don't want to say it, but obviously both camps at Oklahoma and Notre Dame probably kind of looking ahead on that calendar schedule a little bit to the date. Not this Saturday, but the week following. Notre Dame, guys. Yeah, that's going to be a really, really big one.
Already been announced, 7 o'clock ABC. In fact, Chris Fowler has actually tweeted to me.
Wow.
Yeah, I got in a back and forth with Chris Fowler.
Beautiful.
Name dropping over here.
He said that both teams win Saturday. They're coming to Norman next week. So
very nice.
Without question, I think best atmosphere in Norman since 2008 will be on hand next week against that Notre Dame game.
Yeah, would totally agree. Since Texas Tech, what you're referring to.
Yeah, Texas Tech 2008, 1 versus 2. The jump around game, I like to refer to
the famous jump around game. Some thoughts for that game? I mean, going in, Notre Dame obviously very much improved, especially defensively, but do they have enough offensively and defensively to try and come in to Gaylord Memorial Stadium and hand the Sooners their second home loss this year?
The offense is a great question. I think Notre Dame's defense is stellar. It'd be the best one that the Sooners have seen this season, but I don't think the Irish have the offensive firepower. I hate to say it, but I almost think OU's really going to coast in this one unless they make some mistakes like they did against Kansas State. I just think they're more talented, they're faster, and I don't think Notre Dame has seen the type of offense that OU has either. I mean, Notre Dame, I don't want to, this is wrong to say, they've been beating up on the Big Ten. Purdue, Michigan State, Michigan.
Yeah, Michigan State and Michigan teams that aren't as good as we thought they were preseason.
Right.
You know, they against Purdue it was 20-17. You know, we talk about they beat up on Miami. So so did Kansas State.
Probably the worst Miami team that we've had in quite a while.
So it's just Notre Dame deserves their ranking because they haven't lost and they've looked good.
They've improved vastly, as compared to previous years.
Yeah, but I think as long as OU plays its game, it's going to be a great atmosphere next Saturday night, and it's going to be an even bigger win.
And the atmosphere was a little bit lacking in that Kansas State game. I remember the press conference before the week. Everybody always gives that question to Bob when you have a ranked team come in.
He hates
Bob, do you need to call out the fans this week? And he kind of dodged it this time. Well, maybe he did because the atmosphere was just not what it needed to be in that top-ranked game. But I think people were already looking forward to this game anyway. First time since 1966 that Notre Dame's been here. I work at a Catholic school, so I know a lot of people that are looking forward to it as well. But I mean, it's just going to be a great game, and we don't want to get too far ahead of us. We'll talk about that next week as well. But last thing we want to talk to you a little bit about 2:00 this week, McCaslin Philadelphia. The Sooner basketball team will be on display. We mentioned it briefly, but a good chance for the fans to get out there and see them scrimmage. They will open up November 2nd, I believe, first exhibition game against Washburn. But talk a little bit about the basketball team, some recruiting, and how the team's coming along. Which, by the way, they've been streaming their practices, which is interesting.
They're taking a pointer from you guys with this stream stuff. Now, I really like what Kruger is doing with this club. There's a freshman named Jalon Hornbeek from Texas that is really turning heads at the guard position. I love Roe Osby. I think he's a great character guy. Not only does he produce on the court, he's someone that brings it in the leadership department. With recruiting, it's unbelievable how well Kruger is doing in just his second year. OU still in the running for Julius Randle, arguably the top prospect in the class.
A lot of sites do have him ranked right there, too.
Yep, and he's actually making a visit to OU next week for the Notre Dame game because even though it's a big football weekend, most of the time you do get some pretty big basketball prospects that come with, too. And because he's not the only one. They also have a center named Dominic Woodson from Texas is also making the trip. So next weekend, not only big with football, but also big with basketball.
Yeah,
very nice.
And Josh, before we let Bob go, I want to give a plug to the ESPN Sooner Nation and ESPN Insider, which I actually joined today. It's a great deal. I mean, honest to goodness, I'm not just saying this. It is a great deal.
Yep.
Right now, you can get 30 days free. They'll start shipping you ESPN, the magazine, and you get access not just to Sooner Nation, but the entire line of ESPN Insider's sites. So it is definitely one of the best deals out there. Bob, thanks for joining us again. We will have you on next week as always, so be sure and check out the Sooner Nation. We're going to take a quick commercial break and be back with Michael Kinney of the Norman Transcript.
Food isn't just fuel for the body, it's bigger than that. When food is truly enjoyed, it can take you back to familiar places or open new doors to the world. It's what takes food from simply ingredients on a plate to a rich experience that can be shared by all. That's why we make food for people who love food. For us, food is a passion. It's the reason we comb the regions of Mexico for new, innovative flavors. It's why we source the best tasting and freshest ingredients. At Qdoba, we believe love isn't just the most important ingredient in our food. We think it's the most important ingredient in life.
Welcome back to the Ozone here. Northwest Expressway in Rockwell at Qdoba. Got a lot of great food, tacos, burritos. My personal favorite, the quesadilla, the Pick 2 combo. Great stuff over here. Josh Elmer, Greg Spencer, and now here to talk a little bit of Thunder basketball, the man, Michael Kinney. How you doing?
I'm doing outstanding. How we doing today?
Doing well, man. Doing well. Glad you could join us.
No problem. No better way to spend a late night than talking Thunder and listen to you talk about everything else. I'm good.
Very nice.
Michael, before we get into Thunder Talk, I know you were at the OU game as well,
Yeah.
OU Texas. Any thoughts on the Red River rivalry?
Man, that was it was stunning, to say the least.
Yeah.
I kept telling people, I'm kind of embarrassed now because I kept telling people all week it was going to be close. You know, it was a pick'em game. You know, it wouldn't surprise me if Texas came out and won. I was bragging about the defense, and then everything just exploded in that first quarter. I just don't think that they realized, and I don't think OU realized how physical of a team that they could be. And they came out, showed it, put that quick 29 on them, and it was a rout after that.
I'm not going to lie. I was a little bit worried after we the botched extra point in return.
Oh, absolutely.
I was like, oh, no, that just took away that entire momentum of that first drive.
No, that was.
But that went away quickly.
That seemed to make them angry. It seemed to make them a little angry.
Exactly.
I said, wait, this gave away 2 points, so let's go out and take it back and just pound it down the throat. I think the most, if you're a Texas fan, you saw how quickly they evacuated the stadium.
Well, they've seen it before. I mean, this is the 4th time in the Stoops era that there's been a beating in that vicinity of score. So
where does this put Mac Brown going forward? Can he save his job this season? Is that still possible?
I think for this year he's fine. I don't think he has to worry anything about that. But obviously when he came out, I think it was like a day or two.
He was not a
after.
happy camper in his press conference.
He wasn't happy. He called out a couple of people, but you never want to hear someone have to bring in the dreaded vote of confidence, which he came out with on Monday, saying the boosters are behind me and the school officials are behind me, which means that he's been talked to. Say, hey, you need to get this going. I think that the most telling stat is that since he got his raise in 2009, he's only 17 and 16 overall.
Yeah, that's a very good point.
Exactly.
Including those coaching changes that he made as well.
Exactly. And the fact that the coach that they let go is now the head coach of the number 2 team in the nation. And so you have Texas fans going, wait, we could have had that. And so now, it's a tough position for him to be in. I think he's now transformed into that Bobby Bowden realm where you're not really coaching.
Yeah, he's a CEO. He's a CEO
and working mostly with the Longhorn Network. So, that's his biggest job right now.
Yeah, and switching gears, we could talk about OU Texas all day, but talking about the Thunder, coming off a preseason win last night against the Charlotte Bobcats, I had a chance to go to that game last night, and I was actually really impressed with 3 guys that are fighting for a roster spot. Daniel Orton, the pride of Bishop McGinnis, Andy Rotten from Syracuse, and DeAndre Liggins. All 3 guys kind of fighting for those spots, and I don't know if you had a chance to see the game or not, Michael, but really all 3 of those guys made an impression last night.
Yeah, I was there. It was my first actual chance to see them, the team up and close and personal, to be able to talk to the players before and after. I think and really it was those 3 players who probably stood out the most. Obviously we didn't get to see too much of Kevin and Russell. James didn't even play. A lot of just resting, getting ready for the season. Yeah. And you talk to Scott afterwards. He said, there's only 1 spot left, and they have so much talent who they brought in to fight for it, that it's making it a tough decision. Do they go with size and keep Daniel Orton, or they go with another backcourt shooter type playmaker and go with Routon? Liggins, I think, is probably a little bit more safe, but nothing's guaranteed. He came out and played well on both ends. So
he reminds me of Royale Ivy with maybe a little bit more of an offensive game.
Exactly, and can play. Play anytime you can play tough defense, you have a good chance of making the Thunder. And but Routon showed that he can make baskets, and in this league, you have to be able to do both. So it's going to be a tough decision, but I like that the people that they brought in to complement their main core players.
And Routens is a guy I could see spending the year in Tulsa, maybe coming up if they need him, but possibly taking over that role next season when Daquan Cook likely leaves.
That's a very good
being
point.
A free agent.
Very good point.
Exactly. And I think the bigger point is that until that October 31st date comes and goes, and they know exactly what they're going to do with James Harden. They still have to figure out if they're going to have enough backcourt playmakers to be able to take his place in case he leaves.
And where do you see that going right now? I know last year we had about 6 days till the deadline when Russell Westbrook signed. I think we probably got about 14 or so right now.
And I believe Tabo was another guy that was
3 days.
Yeah, was right there. About 3 days left. So
exactly. He, talking to him, he seems confident that it's going to get done. He keeps saying that he has confidence in his agent and the Thunder organization that they'll get a deal. He says that he's not looking for the
max contract.
The max contract, that he'll settle for less to keep the core group together. So, the proof is in the pudding.
We'll see how it plays out. I mean, a guy, James Harden, this summer that said, I can see us, we're building a dynasty here. So, and that was a quote, guys, that back then really inspired a lot of hope in this community that, James was going to be a guy that stuck around. But you know how that goes. I mean, when money talks, it's tough. I mean, in the other guys, I remember reading a quote from Nick Carson. I don't know if it was then or maybe before that or after, but Nick saying, hey, contract stuff is contract stuff. We understand all the guys in this locker room want to be here, but when it comes down to, signing that dotted line in what the, end-all be-all is going to be as far as what, that contract's going to say, hey, I mean, James is a guy that is worth quite a bit of money, so that, it's a tough situation as far as all of that.
Well, and it was really a symbolic picture at the Game 5 in Miami of the three of those guys standing over there in the corner with their arms around each other, and it just told you how much it meant to them. It's not about the dollars. Yes, that's their agent's job. Yes, that's what they want to get. But I really agree with Michael. I think they will find a way to get James Harden locked up here in these next couple of weeks. Let's talk a little bit about Eric Maynor. There was actually I was a little concerned when I heard Scott Brooks come out and say that he had to fight to get that position back, but then last night indicated that maybe he's just kind of using that as a motivational tactic for Reggie Jackson.
Yeah, that was the big topic of discussion in his pregame interview. That him and Reggie Jackson are going to have to go back and forth, and he's going to have to earn it. You're away from the game from not a year, but pretty close. So you have to go out there on the court. I think he's going to have the backup point guard. I think there's no doubt about that. But I think the biggest thing is that Scott is showing that nothing is guaranteed. Obviously, unless you're Kevin Durant, Russell Westbrook, and James, even
and Serge,
and Serge, that you have to fight for every single minute, every single possession that you get on the court. And so even Eric has to come back and fight for it. But it also shows that how much Reggie has improved since he came in last year. He came in with no training camp and was just really thrust into this giant
during the
thing.
lockout.
During the lockout,
took away from some of his development.
And so he likes both of them. He actually said he can see many scenarios where both Eric Maynor and Reggie Jackson are playing on the floor at the same time. So I think it's going to be Eric's in the end, but Reggie's out there fighting for it, and so you got to like that.
Yeah, competition's always a good sign to see, and you hear that all the time from coaches. Competition breeds success. So certainly as a Thunder fan myself, hoping that is the case for both Reggie and Eric, but I think ultimately I have to tend to lean over to that side with you. I think Eric will probably be the guy, but we'll see. I mean, maybe Reggie has made quite a bit of that development. It'd be nice to see.
And one other guy I failed to mention earlier who had a really impressive game that I think will be in the rotation, how much remains to be seen, is the first-round draft pick, Perry Jones III. Any thoughts on his performance last night, Michael?
Perry was solid. I think Perry's the type of player that he'll excel more with the better talent that is around him. When he's out there, I can see that when he's out there on the floor with Kevin, with Russell and James, that he'll be able to be a playmaker, a facilitator, while also scoring and putting some strong defense in. He was still able to look good and shine a little bit when there was the backup role in, but I can see as the season goes on, he's going to be more someone who his game is propped up by the better players that are around. But they got, I think, as we said back on draft day, they got to steal. Perry's going to be a nice little player for him. And what I heard best coming out of yesterday was that the older players have taken to mentoring them, bringing them along, teaching them the ropes around the league and the Thunder way, which is amazing enough after only 5 years here in Oklahoma City, that there is a Thunder way that the players have to be accountable, how you act accordingly on the court, off the court, in the public, and they're showing Perry, this is how we do things, and he seems to has been well received.
Yeah, Josh, two things before we let Michael go. Thunder will be heading down to Tulsa on Friday to play the Phoenix Suns. Good chance for all the new Thunder fans in Tulsa to get a chance to see them play live and in person at the BOK Center. But the thing I want to talk about is a newer arena that is getting ready to be built over there in Seattle. An interesting thing is about to happen here. We've taken a lot of flack from Seattle writers and fans and the Twitter wars going on these last few years with the Save Our Sonics crew and people like that. And now the arena in Seattle has been approved, which that pretty much bumps them to the top of the list to go and still the Sacramento Kings or maybe the Hornets if they are ever to move. So I actually kind of hope it happens, because I think it would be a tremendous potential rivalry, and I think a lot of crow would be eaten in Seattle to go along with that coffee.
I see it happening also, but it's almost like remember when the Red Sox were all those years of trying to win the World Series, but they were known for not being able to win it. Well, these last few years, that's the biggest thing that Seattle's been known for, is being mad about the Sonics leaving. So now that if you take that away, I used to live in Seattle, and I know how the fans are. They can be passionate, but they can also be very fair weather. So it's going to be interesting if they do get a team, and obviously if it's
got to support them.
They got to support them, especially if it's a team like Charlotte, who isn't going to be great from the start.
No, well, that's not necessarily. Well, Charlotte, I'm not sure leaving, but the Hornets could potentially be a huge steal if they could somehow get New Orleans.
Yeah, but the Kings they have some good players too.
Yeah, but when I was saying this, a team who sucks. Pretty much. That's not good, because that's usually the type of team that's going to play bluntly. Yeah, this is who's going to take a while. Pretty much like when the Thunder were when they came here. Are they going to prove that they can support a team like that? But yes, once a team does get out there, that cross country, Seattle, Oklahoma City.
It'll be interesting.
Oh yeah, especially with players still, Nick and Kevin still on the team who still remember the days, and the Seattle fans still remember them well.
All right, well, Michael, again, as always, thank you for joining us. I want to tell everyone watching here with us on Twitter at @IamTruth. You can follow Michael Kinney there. Insightful follow, I might add.
And that is I-E-Y-E.
As in I-E-Y-E, AmTruth on Twitter. Thank you, Michael. When we come back here on the Ozone, Carson Williams will join us to talk about the Z-Preps Game of the Week, Norman North traveling to Putnam City North.
Food isn't just fuel for the body, it's bigger than that. When food is truly enjoyed, it can take you back to familiar places or open new doors to the world. It's what takes food from simply ingredients on a plate to a rich experience that can be shared by all. That's why we make food for people who love food. For us, food is a passion. It's the reason we comb the regions of Mexico for new, innovative flavors. It's why we source the best tasting and freshest ingredients. At Qdoba, we believe love isn't just the most important ingredient in our food, we think it's the most important ingredient in life.
Welcome back to the Ozone. We are live from Qdoba here at Northwest Expressway in Rockwell. Joining us now is Carson Williams of I believe it's called the North Star, the Putnam City newspaper.
The editor of the North Star.
Absolutely.
Thanks for noticing that.
You're
really appreciate it.
I believe, are you also doing some work with the Sports Animal now?
I actually am. Matt Pinto got me an internship with them this season for the Thunder. And I've already worked twice, and it's been a blast. I'm learning how to edit highlights and send out text messages to all their people who subscribe to them, and it's a blast just being in the room with them, just getting to know or getting like hands-on experience. It's a blast.
And to shadow around who in my humble opinion, I would say Matt Pinto. I don't know if it's maybe fair to say he's the best in the business, but in my opinion, the best in the business are right there. So I mean, a guy that I admire and respect greatly.
Yeah, I got to go shadow him actually one game last season, and what he does just to put work into every game, it's just tremendous. He has so many notes, and it's ridiculous.
I can imagine, because the picture that Matt Pinto is able to paint in your mind is truly a work of art. So that's really neat.
It takes a talented guy to be able to handle a game solo, and he does a great job with it. But let's talk a little bit about The C-Preps game of the week. We're coming to Putnam City North. Norman North coming off a big upset victory over previously undefeated and a team that we thought was the best in this area, Edmond North. Wow. What do you got? What insight do you have for us on this game?
I don't know. I think it's going to be a good game. PC North, Norman North, they are a pass-savvy offense, and I don't think, PC North hasn't really seen that type of offense so far this season. So, but their back seven's really fast, really athletic, and so it's going to be interesting to see how they handle that pass offense.
And PC North does kind of a different approach offensively, more run first. Is that correct?
Absolutely. Tay Moore is actually second in points scored this season in 6A, so he's doing a great job along with senior quarterback John Robert Simon. He's definitely he's much improved from last season. I think he's on his way, hopefully, to lead this Panther offense to the playoffs.
And guys, none of which is to forget to mention that this is a battle this Friday for the first place in that district.
Absolutely. If the Panthers take care of business, things could be tied atop 6A3, which then would turn over to points, I believe. So.
Now, we don't want to put you on the spot. You say you usually give your pick on Friday.
Yes, Friday on my blog.
Can you give us an indication of which way you might be leaning?
I'm leaning green and white.
Leaning green and white.
Leaning green and white, but I would
make you popular at school tomorrow.
I would be happy to be proven wrong. I'd rather be proven wrong than be proven right and not get to make or host a playoff game.
You're rooting for the Cardinal in gold.
I'm always there to support, but I have to make that journalistic pick. So
it's a fine line.
We'll let them know that's not an official pick. He does have time to change his mind, but we're actually going to give you a chance. We're going to put you on the spot here and let you join Josh and I on the pick 6 here. This is something that we do every week. We pick 6 games. And
2 high school, 2 college, 2 NFL.
Pros.
Yeah, not off
so
to
far
a great
we haven't
start.
been very good. We're both 8-10. I was able to catch up with them a little bit in this. Actually, 2 weeks ago, we took a week off on the show.
I was 6-6. I was 500 right there, trying to sneak into the good side of things, the high side.
Well, hopefully we both can get there this week. But let's go ahead and go to the pick 6. We'll go all 3 of us here. First game, the game that we talked about with Madison earlier, Guthrie and Deer Creek. Who you got?
She had Guthrie. I'm going to take Deer Creek. I just think that Joe Blumenthal, Jared Rayburn, Brennan Miyake, that's just a very high-powered offense. I think they take care of business and move, back on to the undefeated side.
Yeah,
go down the line here.
We'll just slide down the line. I'm going to go ahead and agree with you, Carson. We're 1 for 1 here on the same page here. I think Deer Creek, Joe Blumenthal, I think it's their time in this district. Obviously, you look at McGinnis down the road. That'll be another tough road game. Deer Creek kind of got the unfortunate draw there, but I really like Blumenthal. I really like Brennan Miyake, and I really like Rayburn, and I like their defense, too. I'm going with Deer Creek.
I'm going to go with Madison. She said I believe it was a 4-point line. She made up her own line there, so I'm going to give it to Deer Creek as well and go 3 for 3. Let's go back this way on the other game. We lied to you. We are going to put you on the spot for an official pick. Norman North, Putnam City North. I'm taking Norman North with the pick on that one, Josh.
Yeah, I'm going Timberwolves as well. Norman North, I think, wins this football game. Should be interesting, though.
Green and white. That's all I have to say.
Green and white, that's all he's saying. Moving to the college game now. An interesting game. The team that beat Oklahoma a couple weeks ago, Kansas State, now traveling to a team that was the hottest team in the Big 12 until they went to Lubbock and forgot their offense. Kansas State, West Virginia, 2.5-point favor at West Virginia. Josh, I'm taking them to bounce back this week. I just don't think Kansas State has a high-powered enough offense to stay with the wounded West Virginia team that is going to be licking their chops to get back on the winning column.
All right, well, hey, West Virginia, the Mountaineers, they forgot their offense, but they certainly brought their defense to Texas Tech, which was not very good, as we've seen throughout most of the season. But, hey, I think that West Virginia is going to find a way. I have to agree with Greg here. I think that the Mountaineers get it together this weekend. This is their chance. If they lose this week, they're basically, for all intents and purposes, I think the Big 12 race is over for them if they lose this football game, and I like the Mountaineers.
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and say West Virginia as well. I think Geno Smith is one of the most exciting players in college football right now. I think like what that offense can bring.
A week ago, I feel.
Right, but I think that offense and just what they bring is going to be too much for Kansas State. I don't think that they're going to see any better offense this year.
Tavon Austin and Stedman Bailey, outstanding wide receivers.
Right.
Next game, an interesting one. Mizzou has struggled greatly in the SEC. A&M's doing a decent job, but they have a big test at home this week. LSU and their non-existent offense going on the road, taking that tough defense. They are the opposite of West Virginia. Favored by 3 at A&M. I'm going to take LSU.
Go Tigers to my right over here. Okay, we're 8-10. We're both tied. You can't agree on everything every week. 12th man, you gotta back me up here. I'm going with the Aggies. I like that offense. They will beat the Tigers, hand them another loss, and I'm going with the Aggies.
You sure about that?
I have my reservations, but I think it's going to be a good one, and I don't know. We'll see. I'm going Aggies, though.
Okay, I'm gonna go with Greg, and I'm gonna say LSU. I think, they're one of the best teams in the SEC, and they have been forever. So I'm gonna go with
outstanding defense.
I'm gonna go. Yes, absolutely. I'm gonna go with LSU.
Next game, moving on to the NFL. Green Bay, 5.5-point favorite, coming off a big win on the road at Houston last week. I think that surprised some people. Green Bay, both these teams actually sitting at 3-3 on the road at St. Louis. Sam Bradford, you're a
Putnam City North.
Putnam City North.
Yes.
You turn on to Sam Bradford Drive or whatever it's called every day to get to school.
Yes, I do.
Who you got in that one?
Just for the sake of Sam Bradford, I'm going to say the Rams. 3-3 against 3-3. I think. I think they can pull it out. We'll see how it goes.
And you just need him to win by a point there for that line. So
yes.
They sneak out any kind of win. You take the pick. I'm disagreeing. I don't agree. I think the Packers will get it together. The Packers have been just all over the place so far this year.
Scatterbrained.
Should be 4-2. Minus the referee replacement ref debacle. But I think the Packers will get it together and go get a road win and win by 6 or more at St. Louis.
Yeah, they got it together last week. And you went on the road, undefeated Houston, put up 44 points, I believe.
Absolutely.
I think they carry that over. I think St. Louis gives them a good game, but probably lose by a couple touchdowns. Last game, RG3 was banged up. He had a concussion, and then he went off and he got about 40 fantasy points on my bench last week because I thought he was going to be hurt. Apparently, he is just a freak of nature. He's going to go on the road, defending champion New York Giants, a 5.5-point favor. That's a toss-up game. I could see Washington going on and making something out of that. Who you got in this one, Carson?
As good as Robert Griffin III is, I think he has the potential to win Rookie of the Year, even though Andrew Luck was that number 1 pick. But I think the Giants are too much in this one, so you really can't beat the defending champions.
I will second that thought. I'm going G-Men as well.
I'm actually going to take RG3 and the Redskins. I'm not necessarily picking to win the game, but I do think they make it very interesting. It's going to come down to the wire. Can the rookie outduel the 2-time Super Bowl champion Eli Manning? Remains to be seen, but I think it's going to be an excellent game. That is going to do it for us here on the Ozone tonight. I forgot how to talk there for a second.
No final thoughts, Greg? You gotta have something on your mind.
Do we have some final thoughts?
Yeah, hit us with some final thoughts. Anything going on?
Final thoughts. Let me see. I would like to make a slight half-hearted apology to Landry Jones. 2 weeks ago, I kind of threw him under I put him on blast, but he responded from it, and that's why it's not a real apology, because I think we live in this media-driven society. It's college football is probably the second or third biggest sport there is. And I just saw him making mistakes that I didn't think he should be making. And since then, like I said earlier, him and Josh Heupel have made those corrections, and now OU looks like the team they got to be. So I have a slight apology.
My final thoughts, Greg, since your Dodgers are out, who do you think is going to win the NLCS?
It's kind of the lesser of two evils. I hate the Giants, and I'm kind of sick of seeing the Cardinals have success. But I really think the Cardinals find a way. They just seem to be playing well at the right time, which leads me to I need to check the score because it was in a rain delay last night.
Pretty sure it's still 3-1. I think it's still in the rain delay.
All right. Hey, for me, final thoughts. Shout out to Mr. Mike Stoops. Got it going on with that defense once more. Last time he was down in Dallas was back in 2003. Sooners routed the Longhorns then. They do it again last Saturday. So shout out to Mike Stoops. Got things rolling. It seems like guys really figuring it out what he wants to do right there defensively.
Don't forget the Z-Preps game of the week. You'll be there working the sidelines.
Manning the sidelines.
Yeah, we'll be back here at Qdoba next week. Thanks for joining us. We will see you next time.